Hello everyone, my name is Reginald Maddox. Welcome to Action to Service, where training is focused on people. Before we get started today, please like this video, subscribe to this channel, and be sure to share it with someone else. When we talk about evaluations are meant to let the employee know how well they're doing. What are their strong points? What are their weak points? But evaluations are also meant for the employee to give the employer some feedback on how they feel about the organization and how they feel about themselves and how well they think they are doing within a company. Now, here's where there's a little bit of a problem when it comes to evaluations. Oftentimes, many companies only do evaluations once a year. And you're now leaning into hearsay. Because if an employee feels as if my evaluation doesn't really reflect what I do, you have to ask yourself, did the supervisor or manager actually meet with the employee? Did the supervisor and manager actually speak with the employee about some of the negative things that's posted in their evaluation? Could this be a situation of retaliation? Is the manager or supervisor have a better relationship because maybe they work with some of the people on the team for numerous years and they just sort of have a friendship over a work relationship, which now impacts another person? This is a problem when it comes to evaluations. Number one, it's best if evaluations are not done once a year. If your evaluations are due, let's say at the end of the year, around about November, 6 months prior to November, there should be a pre-evaluation meeting to let the employee know where they stand at that point, what things they need to work on. This will help with the employee having a now understanding of, okay, these are my strong points, this is my weak points, this is what I can do to get better marks on my evaluation. But this meeting should also be documented. This not only protects the employee, but it also protects the employer. This is when the employee comes and he gets these negative marks at the end of the year. He's like, well, I was never told any of these things. So now you're creating sort of an HR nightmare. Always set up a 6-month evaluation prior to the final evaluation to give that employee time to make the adjustments. This way, the employee knows exactly where they stand. The employer knows as well where they stand. Now, when it comes to managers and supervisors, do you actually get input on your managers and supervisors? Is there an evaluation done to determine if they are, portraying effective leadership to motivate and educate the team members that actually report to them? This is also important. When it comes to running a business and it comes to evaluations, negative evaluations can create a very negative work environment. And oftentimes companies don't seem to realize it until the issue has become so big that multiple people are drawn in. HR is now conducting this huge investigation. It's very important that if you're going to use evaluations to grade your employees, then it's very important that, number one, you actually can verify that that manager or supervisor is meeting and speaking with these employees. Number two, you got to verify the fact that there is a 6-month evaluation, that the employee was aware of any issues, be it praise or negative comments regarding their work performance, to give them time to adjust it. And number three, you have to make sure that your evaluations are work-based, not emotional-based. Even when your evaluations have been completed and the manager has signed off on them, does anybody follow up with the manager to ask them, this person received negative marks? Now, most companies set a benchmark And they'll say, well, if an employee scores below this, then we'll ask them about it. They have to explain why they gave that mark. So let's just say if they got meets requirements, then needs improvement. Most companies will say, if they need improvement, then you got to provide some form of verification. But they don't take into account that there are other negative comments posted in the evaluation, but they don't request any verification because they say, well, they met requirements. There's no reason to question it. It's important that employers really try to understand that when you are creating your evaluations, think about the department. You cannot post an evaluation with the same criteria for a faculty member as a security member, as an office person versus someone doing shift work. So you have to think about things like that. Does your evaluations accurately allow you to evaluate an employee who works certain jobs? Some companies just use a blanket evaluation and they use that for every aspect. The evaluation for a police officer would not be the same evaluation that you would use for someone who's administrative aide. They are two different jobs, two different job duties and requirements. Of course, we can always have the basics: customer service, punctuality, attendance, all of that, of course. But in order to properly evaluate your employees, you need to narrow your evaluations down to that specific job, so that when they are being evaluated, you are evaluating them on the job, what they are actually doing. This can also inspire your employees to work harder. And it also gives them a little bit more clarification of the expectations in regards to their job duty, instead of a general and very vague type evaluation. But none of this matters if the manager or supervisor is not truly meeting and evaluating the employee. If the manager or employee doesn't see an employee for 5 to 6 months, can you accurately evaluate that employee's performance? Can you actually say that this employee meets the job, doesn't meet the job, or exceeds? You have to actually be around the employee to evaluate them. You have to be able to monitor their performance. The other thing is, sometimes you will have managers or supervisors who will use the voice of other employees to create evaluation for certain employees. An employee's evaluation should be a reflection of their performance, not the feelings of other employees, especially if that manager or supervisor is not actively trying to determine, is what this employee saying true about this other employee? Before I say that this employee doesn't get along with people, or this employee doesn't go to this location, or they don't meet their service on time, do you actively look to see if these allegations are true, or do you just throw them on a report because you feel they worked here longer, I've known them? Keep in mind, when it comes to employees, there can oftentimes be rivalries, there can be conflict that may exist, but if the manager or supervisor is not actively trying to understand what created these conflicts to come up with a resolution, then how can you input this on someone's evaluation? So I hope this information was helpful to you. Just wanted to share. If you'd like to know more, please feel free to contact us. My name is Reggie, and thank you for watching our video here on Action to Service.